Hey YouTube, Pete Turner here, and I'm back with episode 4 in this series. Today I'll be answering your questions, and I can tell you now that one of those questions asked me to tip an effect. So today I'll be sharing with you a seemingly psychological card effect. It's one of my absolute favourites, so stay tuned for the tutorial for that. For now, I want to enjoy my breakfast, so let's roll the title sequence. Welcome back. As I said before the title sequence, today I'll be answering your questions, and I want to make one thing crystal clear before I do get into the questions. I do go through the comments, I do read your questions and your comments, and I try to get back to them, and if I don't get back to them, it's because I'm saving them for a video like this. Now, there's one thing that I won't tolerate in the comments and I won't respond to, it's trolls. So if there's ever any comments in there where you're abusing me and jumping from video to video, I just won't respond, I won't address them, because it's a waste of time for me and it's a waste of time for you. That doesn't mean, however, if you ask me a question that you feel might be a negative type question, but you're asking it from the heart, that I won't answer it, because today there's a few questions in here that most people would be scared to ask, but I'm open and honest. And as I've said, this is your platform. Ask me what you want. If you want to learn something, ask me. If you want to talk about a particular subject, ask me. And if you're not subscribed, click the subscribe button so you can keep up to date on when these videos come out. So the first question that I'm going to answer is not one that's been asked by one particular person, it's been asked by a multitude of different people. And it's, why did I move my YouTube channel from my YouTube onto Ellusionist platform? And the honesty is that my reason for doing this is from the heart. I don't have to do it. I don't get paid any extra to do it. I've not been asked to do it. If Ellusionist had asked me to do it and I didn't want to do it, I wouldn't do it. I don't care what anybody tells me. If I don't want to do something, I'm not doing it. And if anybody doesn't believe that, then why would I say this openly on this channel, knowing that everybody in the Ellusionist team watches it? It wouldn't make sense. So because I wanted everybody to become a better performer and a better creator, and the size of Ellusionist platform is much larger than my own platform, I thought, well, I can reach more people on this platform than I could on my own. So I decided off my own back to move it across, because it was with your best interest at heart. So it's, you know, nothing nefarious. Ellusionist never asked me. In fact, I don't even know if they know that I'm doing it. I just saw, well, they do because they watch them, but I mean, they haven't said anything about it. So Stephen Nass asked, if you could only perform one effect ever again, what would it be? Now, it's a great question, because it's almost like eating your favorite food for every single meal. After a bit, it probably wouldn't be your favorite food. But the idea of it, you know, is fun. The honesty is that I probably want to get to know somebody. If I was sat in a social situation, instead of busting an effect out, I'd spend that 5 minutes having an affect, not effect, an affect on that person's life by just conversing, you know, and getting to know them on a personal level. And as I get older, I find that I'm less about busting out the tricks and the effects and more about just talking and listening to people, because you meet so many amazing people, and there's so many amazing people that have so many amazing skills that you never hear about because they're too scared to tell you about them, or you've jumped in there and you've shown them a trick, and again, they think, oh, I best not show him my skill because it's not as good as that. So the honesty is that if I were doing it socially, it'd probably just to be to talk and to get to know somebody. But if it were being filmed, or if I were jumping from channel to channel to channel, or if I were filming over and over and over again, it'd probably be my version of PK Touches, which is called Midas Touch. And I absolutely love that effect. It's such a great, great piece, and it absolutely slays whenever I perform it. So moving on, Alexander Freyson Chan, and I hope I pronounced that right. I would be interested to hear your thoughts on making this a profession, jumping ship from your current crappy job. So the honesty is that it takes a while. It's not something that happens overnight. It can happen overnight, but you've got to go through a period where you're not going to get paid anything. And I remember being in a situation where I was working in sales. So at the time, you know, I was working in sales, I was going from place to place, and I was making good money in sales. And I started writing a book in the background, and I'd done the whole, you know, working men's clubs and doing table hopping for peanuts. But that got my foot in the door to understand that there could be money made from this, and it could be a business. Even though it was peanuts, I was covering my bills, but I still took a sales job because it was better than what I was being paid from table hopping and live shows. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't earn a lot of money from doing live shows. You know, if you're doing big corporate events or you're doing networking events and stuff like that, or if you're doing a lot of live events, then that's a different story. But the answer is this: same as anything. If you want to be a photographer in life, if you want to be an artist, if you want to be a guitar player, if you want to be a joiner or carpenter, a plumber, an electrician, then you've got to start by actively going out and doing it, actively making it happen. Because the thing is, what we do is we go, okay, I'm going to do that in a year's time when my finances are better. And then you get 11 months down the line and then something like lockdown happens. And then you go back to square one again and you go, you know what, I'm going to save up for next year. And then by the time you realise you're 65, 70 years old and it's too late at that point to decide that you want to do this professionally, because at that point you just want to enjoy life. You know, because you spent a lifetime working. So you've got to, at some point, take a hit. You've got to take one for the team. And the idea is that you're not going to make money out the gate, but if you can't afford to provide for your family and do magic, then don't do it. You know, just do it as a hobby in the background. There's nothing that says that this has to be a profession. You know, I still get enjoyment out of magic. If it became lackluster and I got enjoyment elsewhere, I'd jump ship from this and go and do something else, you know. So the honesty is just go into bars, take your business cards, show them what you've got, ask who it is that books entertainment, blow their socks off and say, here's my card, we can either sit down and book a date in now or we can keep moving. With the current climate, I think it's probably easier than ever because you only need to write a few emails and send emails out with videos in. So make a video, send it out to different companies. So I hope that, you know, that helps. Sean Redcap, how do you film magic for YouTube? Well, my attempts at filming magic, as you've seen, are fairly lackluster. They're not the best. I just stick a camera on a tripod and I talk to it, and then I try to film some bits around me driving about on quads and motorbikes and other things. It's not really filming magic, but I think what you mean is how do you film magic? That's a different thing. Well, I'm a consultant for a number of different television shows and different performers, and I've wrote a lot of pilot episodes and worked on chat shows and other things like that in different formats. And I've learned over the years that the simple formula to filming is the easiest. You don't need fancy equipment. The only thing that's important is the audio. So get yourself an audio device. As you can see here, I'm using a Laviera lapel mic, and this is the Rode Filmmakers Kit. I strap that onto the top of my camera and I'm good to go. But if you've not got the money for that, get yourself a dictaphone and one of these and record the audio separate. You can buy a dictaphone for $25, $20 on Amazon, and use your mobile phone, turn it on its side, record the audio separate, please. That's the important thing. You can watch a video that has bad video quality, but you can't watch a video with good video quality and bad audio. If there's good audio and bad video quality, you can get away with it. So the audio is the key, which sounds really strange, but just turn it on its side. And if you mean how do I create interesting plots for magic and mentalism, well, it's about thinking about what's current in the world at the time and how you can make something seem bigger than it is. So instead of doing like a hand stick on a table, for example, you know, you might put £1,000 or $1,000 in a wallet and stick somebody's hand and say, if you can get the wallet, you can have it. You know, that instantly adds that air of drama and tension to it, but it's a whole class in itself, and I think it deserves a full episode on this channel. So Sean, I'm going to promise you something. I am going to do an episode on how to film YouTube magic, where I'll perform a few effects, show you how I filmed it, break down how I filmed it, and I'll only use simple bits of equipment to teach you that. I think that's the best way to do this. Anon, why do the psychological experiments not work on everyone? Well, that's a really interesting question, and the honest answer is this. I am not a fan of, and I'm not going to name performers' names, but those Facebook videos where they tell you to touch something on the screen or follow something with your eyes and the outcome's the same for everybody. I'm not a fan of that. I'm a fan of real psychological type effects. And every so often I might slip in there one of those things where you follow something on the screen and the outcome's pretty much got to be the same for everybody, but I'll still leave the end open-ended. And the reason why is because I'm genuinely doing it based on psychology. I'm doing it based on what I think somebody's going to go for, based on what I'm saying. And also, I like the fact that it's not for everybody. You know, that's the idea, is that if it was for everybody and everybody were commenting, oh my God, it worked on me, oh my God, it worked, it's a trick. And I'm not interested in doing that. I'm interested in having fun, playing a little psychological game before we start these experiments, which I've not done today. But it's not going to work on everybody because I'm not I don't think it's right for me to do them that are forced into one outcome. That's not an effect for me. That's not psychological for me. So that's the answer to that. So Ethan Harper's, and this is quite a long question, but do you tackle multiple effects and outs at once, or do you get really sucked into one effect for a while? That's the first question. But then he's put, I feel I can't do each effect justice without obsessing over one at a time. I want to thank you again. I also got hold of your Bigger Fish and Bigger Fish files, and wow man, thank you for your creativity and dedication. Also, please, for the love of all things magic, can we have a HTH box set, How to Hypnotize? So Ethan, good news. I am working on something that is hypnosis based. It's taking my blend of mentalism and mixing it with hypnotism. I'm not going to tell you what that is, but keep your eyes peeled for that. As I said, I'm not here to advertise things, but I thought I'd mention it because you asked. And the honest answer is, do I tackle multiple effects and outs at once, or do I get really sucked into one effect for a while? Well, it depends on the crowd. That's the answer. You've got to learn to read your audience. Now, if you're doing something on television, or you're doing something for a talent show, you're doing something that needs to be quick, well then you either do one effect that's got multiple different revelations, or a series of quick fire effects. But when you're performing in the real world, you've got to get a feel for the audience that you're performing for. If I sit down and I think, oh, these are not going to be interested in playing cards, then I just don't bother with playing cards. I move into things that I feel they might be interested in. And how do I know what they're interested in? Well, I ask them questions. I talk to them first. I spend 20 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute getting to know people. You know, if I sit down and I notice people have got crystals around their neck and moon rings and they look like the esoteric crowd, I might perform things that are more psychic as opposed to psychological. If I sit down and I notice it's a series of people that are poker players, you know, it's a poker tournament and it's after a poker tournament, well, then I might get the cards out and I might do something that's poker based. So the honest answer is that there's no answer to that question. It all depends on the crowd. If I am performing for one crowd for 15 to 20 minutes, what I will do is I'll always slip a story in there, because the idea is that you need to be memorable. You need to be remembered. Your name needs to be remembered, and they can do that if there's a visual of a story to connect to. So that answers that question. You versus you. Big fan Pete, confirmation principle. Can you please suggest the best work you've ever produced and where we can purchase it? I must mention I seem to have everything that you put out. Well, you versus you, thank you for getting everything that it is that I put out. I really do honestly appreciate all the support you guys have given me. You know, I never expected to be sitting here and people listening to me, or working for a big magic company, or even to be moderately known in the mentalism world. It was something that never factored into my head. So the honesty is, you know, the best piece of work I think I've ever created was Devil in Disguise 2 or Bigger Fish Files. I absolutely loved those projects. Devil in Disguise 2 actually put me in hospital. It inspired the title of this video. But yeah, probably Devil in Disguise 2 and Bigger Fish Files. They're the things that I consider the best, because I had so much input on them. I filmed them, I edited them, I sat there through all the process. I sat and wrote every single piece meticulously, helped book the locations and everything else, and I'm going to get into that a little bit later. But now we're coming down to Aaron Reed, and this is a question that I read, and it sort of upset me a little bit, in the sense that I don't like people thinking like this about me. So Aaron Reed said, I bet you won't respond to this. No one ever responds to any messages I send. I am a big fan and I'm trying to learn psychological card effects, but I'm scared of failing. Do you have a resource for an effect I can learn so that I don't have to fall face flat each time I perform? I love your work. So Aaron, I have read it, and I'm going to be really honest about something. You know, before I was considered a name, and I don't consider myself a name, but before I was considered a name, nobody responded to me. Nobody answered my questions. Nobody talked to me. I'd send people messages saying, I really love you. Can you check this out? Nobody checked it out. I think I managed to get hold of maybe one person out of everybody that inspired me, still inspire me. And what happened was, I went through a period of time where when I started to become more known, I sort of felt a little bit like, oh, I'd never do that to somebody. I'd never not respond. I'd never not answer this question. I'd never not answer that. And then it got past that point, to the point where I was receiving 500, 600, 1,000 messages a day, which is a hell of a lot. Sometimes you'd have 6 or 7 from the same person. And I realised maybe that's why they didn't respond, because they had so many people messaging them at the same time. And that's why I tried to bring these videos to you, because I can address them all at the same time. I'm going to do you one better than recommending a source. What I'm going to do is I'm going to roll a performance. I'm going to let you watch the performance so that you can see how it plays out. You can watch it, you can in your head try to figure it out. Then we'll come back. I'll answer a couple more questions, and these are the ones that I said earlier people might consider negative questions. So this is the real juicy gossip side that's coming after the performance. And at the end of answering those questions, we'll finish on a light note where I'll teach you how I did the seemingly psychological card effect. So Aaron, enjoy this performance. This one's dedicated to you. For those of you that are watching this that don't recognise the gentleman on my right hand side, this is Fraser Parker. Fraser's a prominent mentalist, performer and creator that's performed all around the world. He's sat in on a number of different projects with me. Thank you for joining me for this.
No worries.
Now obviously you know what a psychological force is.
Yeah.
And you'll know after a decade of research that the idea of putting an idea into somebody's head is hit and miss. If you're doing it for real, it either works or it doesn't.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be doing this for real, but I'm going to try to get a perfect success rating.
Okay.
Now there's two things that make a playing card unique. That's obviously the suit and the value.
Yep.
If I told you that I could influence you, not only the suit and the value, with 100% certainty, would that be an impressive feat?
Yeah.
So take a look at the card that's on the table. That's not the one that I'm trying to influence you.
Okay.
But just take a look at the suit. It's obviously a club. I want you to imagine for a few seconds that that club pops and it changes into a completely different suit.
Okay.
What suit do you imagine it changing to?
Hearts just popped in.
And did that feel like a fair choice?
Yeah.
You didn't feel like I influenced you?
Nope.
And like I said, that's the best thing about influence. If you were truly influencing somebody, they'd never know you were really doing it. They'd feel it with their choice all along.
Right, yeah.
If you were to take a look at the number, the value, and you imagine that the number changed, what does it change to?
An 8.
So the 8 of hearts. You imagine that the 5 of clubs that were sat on this table just popped and changed to an 8 of hearts.
Yeah.
If I told you that I predetermined that before you ever sat down, would you be impressed?
Yeah.
Would you believe it were possible?
With you, yeah.
Well, thank you for your vote of confidence. This deck's been sat in front of you the entire time. I never touched it.
Yeah, it's my deck as well.
Well, earlier on, whilst you weren't looking, I took one card and I turned it the wrong way around and slotted it back into the centre of the deck.
Okay.
So I want you to pick them up. You're going to spread them face down, so there's only one card face up. I'll get rid of these. You're going to spread them face down like this, and there should be one card just face up. If it were the 8 of hearts, feel free to go nuts. And there it is, and you can genuinely check through the rest. Look, there's no more cards that are face up in there. There's no outs, no anything. It's the 8 of hearts, and with 100% certainty.
You're not just, yeah,
It's your deck. 100% certainty.
Nice.
You made a mess of my table.
I mean, I know about some psychological forces, but that, I thought I was throwing you with the 8.
It's great, isn't it?
It's great, yeah. That's cool. Just one card.
How cool is that? Such a simple yet seemingly psychological effect that's so easy to do, everyone can do it, and best of all, you don't have to worry about failing. And as I said, Aaron, that was dedicated to you. I will get into the tutorial of how that's done after I answer this next question. And the reason that I wanted to address this next question is because even though some would consider it a negative comment or question, it had my best interest at heart and it was from the heart. So I'll answer it. I won't avoid it. I won't gloss over it. This was submitted 3 weeks ago by Magic Trick Videos. And I'm going to read it verbatim and then I'll answer each point as I go along. So it's 2 red X's. Peter, you always say I do what I want when I want and no one tells me different. All of a sudden, Ellusionist takes you on board and all your new videos shift to their channel. Well, I explained that earlier on. That was my choice. It were up to me. Nobody's asked me to do it and I can stop doing these videos on this channel anytime I want. And then it says, they are wringing you dry of every dollar they can make off of you, doing what they tell you to do. And I'm sure that's called selling out. I'll get to this after I've read the rest of this comment/question. Disappointing 2 red X's. You shouldn't even work for them. They are disrespectful every time you're on with the team and you are giving extremely useful knowledge, more than all of them put together. They say you talk too much, especially Lloyd Barnes. Laugh out loud, that joke. And they always say that you like to hear yourself talk. They are a bunch of egotistical magicians and it's a shame that you went against everything that you ever stood for. Why? For money? Common, sick emoji. As many times this comment is taken down, I'll come back double. Well, Magic Trick Videos, thank you for the concern in the comment. I did address it and respond to it, but I'll respond to it now on video, so it's coming from the horse's mouth and everybody can hear the truth. So have I done it for money? No. Do you know what? The honesty is that financially, I'm less well off now than when I ran my own business. That's the truth. I'm making less money now. I didn't move across here for the money. You find as you get older in life and you find that your well-being is more important than money. Don't do everything for the money. This is not for the money. I'm being very open. I don't talk about my financial situation, but I'm making less money now than I did before. So no, it's not for the money, but I will explain what it is for. In regards to the team saying that I like to talk too much, well, I'm a northerner. I do like to talk too much. I could talk the glass eye out of a dead dog. But they're only joking when they say that. And this is one thing that's important to remember. G, or Geraint, I knew G long before he worked at Ellusionist. We've been friends for a long time. Every time we call each other, we don't talk about work. We just talk about life. We talk about politics. We talk about things that cause us to debate with each other. And it's great because I get such intellectual gold from talking to that man that the work isn't even as important as that to me. Lloyd Barnes I've been friends with for a number of years, and that guy is one of the funniest guys. And although he no longer works at Ellusionist because he wanted to go off and do his photography stuff, I love Lloyd with all my heart. He's one of the greatest guys on the planet. And when he says that stuff, he's only joking. If you saw some of the stuff that I said to Lloyd, or some of the things that I do say to Lloyd and the rest of the team, you'd laugh out loud, but then you'd think, God, I would never talk to anybody like that. And we have that banter. We have those jokes. Dwayne Paul Williams is one of my favourite people on the planet. As you know, same with Lloyd and same with G. When he comes up, it makes my week, and everybody says we're like a little married couple because we're arguing backwards and forwards. And the amount of times on the team call I just single him out and then just say something that makes everybody laugh, and he does it back to me, and it makes my week when he comes to my house. So, you know, if you're watching this, Dwayne, you're welcome here anytime, because I always love just hanging out with you. So yeah, we're friends first and foremost, and we just happened to work together. We were friends long before we started working together. And that's one thing that you've got to remember when you see these videos of us all interacting, is that, you know, I never expected to be working for this company. And in fact, the only reason that I am working for the company is because in Vegas we were hanging out together. I was filming something with them that were just my gift to them, just because I was there and I wanted to be on one of the projects just for fun. And then we got talking, and then it all fell into place, and it genuinely fits like a glove. So, you know, I'm working with my friends. How much better does it get? And, you know, when they are talking over me or whatever, that's just fun. It's just banter. So don't take it as anything else. Remember, we were friends first and foremost, and we worked together. And as for ego, they're not egotistical like people think they are, but when you scratch beneath the surface a little bit, these guys are the salt of the earth. So let me talk to you about the real reason for my shift over to Ellusionist. And this is a really, really serious subject, and it's something that I want you to avoid if you can possibly avoid it. I really, really, really regret a period in my life, and the period in my life that I regret is not understanding that my real life, my real social circumstances, my real social connections were more important than the magic and were more important than the mentalism. I created a company called the 13 Souls, and the 13 Souls was all about me producing my own stuff, me creating my own content in an interesting way, and then me releasing it. But what I didn't realize is how much work that actually entailed. And so let me give you an indication of what it was like to live as me during that time. So I'd wake up after about 2 hours sleep, and I'd open my phone, and there'd be hundreds of messages on Facebook, hundreds of emails, hundreds of text messages, and I'd get up and I'd respond to those messages as quickly as possible, missing people out, not responding to my family, not responding to my actual friends that existed that were here. If there were people around me, partners at the time, my son, I'd completely blank them, or just yes, no. and just get on. I'd eat whilst I were video calling to get stuff out of the way. I were ringing distributors, I were ringing people that created books, printers, people that printed labels. I were dealing with company emails, I were dealing with tax stuff, I were dealing with accounts, I were dealing with bank stuff, transfers, other artists, finding talent to get onto the site, writing out the stuff that I needed to create the effects, working on the scripts whilst I were in the shower very quickly or whilst I were driving. I were taking phone calls whilst I were driving. I were missing meals, I was skipping meals. I were then contacting companies about locations for shoots. I was getting written permissions from councils. Then I had to get the camera equipment. Then I was training 2 people that have now turned out to be really, really great cinematographers in the cinematography world. They didn't know how to work a camera. I was directing the shoots, telling people where to point the cameras. I was filming the B-roll. Then I was taking the footage. I was editing that footage. And I was going through every single clip of thousands and thousands of clips and trying to piece it all together, rushing to come up with novel ideas to produce stuff. I'd wax seal hundreds of envelopes when I did Devil in Disguise 2 stuff. I'd have to sign every one of them. If you look at Jinx 2, I did a personal message to every single person that bought in pre-order. And all of this stuff on top of then consulting, lecturing, then looking at the emails when stuff didn't get delivered, having to package stuff myself, take it and post it out myself. Everything was just driven around this one business. And my son would be like, oh, can I come over next week, Dad, instead? Because he wasn't bothered about coming, because all I'd do is put him on a computer and forget that he were there. And that isn't the relationship that I ever wanted to have with my son. It wasn't the relationship that I ever wanted to have with partners that were coming. You know, I had girlfriends that were like, why didn't you text me at all yesterday? Why didn't you respond to my calls? Can I come over Saturday? Oh, you're working again. And all of a sudden, it all fell apart. Friendships that I'd had, you know, for years and years said, oh, you know, when you've stopped working, contact me then. We know you're busy. We're going to give you your space. I lost friends. My family didn't understand that I couldn't text them back. I wasn't turning up to family events because I were out and away filming, doing stuff. My son didn't want to come round to the house. And all of this stuff were building and building and building and building. And then I were working on 2 television shows. One of them were the BBC show for Ryan Tricks, which I can name. Another one, for another person is still pitching, so I'm not going to tell you who that person is because I don't want to ruin their chances of pitching. It's got to come out of the blue, as it were. But I'm working and working and working, and then I was filming the Devil in Disguise stuff. Mark Shandow had just been to the house. I was telling Mark that I wasn't feeling well. I'd got groin pains and back pains. And then the next day, I collapsed. And I just dropped to the floor, screaming in agony. My son were round at the house, and he had to watch me on the floor in absolute pain. And I'd got a massive kidney stone that I couldn't pass, and I dropped, and it was the worst pain I had in my life. And when I got to the hospital, I started to go yellow, and they said, get him through now, we need to check him. I got blood poisoning, I got sepsis, I got blood poisoning, and then I were in hospital with a catheter in my arm, medicated to hell. And they also found out from doing scans that I had an irregular shaped kidney. I don't know what scans they did, you know, I'm not a medical technician, but I was laid in the hospital bed, and I was so worried, so anxious about getting a product out on time to people that I literally texted Adam and said, during the visiting hours, bring the cameras. And I tried to record, medicated off my head, an explanation section from a hospital bed. I was that worried about not reaching a deadline. And when it gets to a point that you're that worried about delivering a product on time, more so than your own health, there's something wrong there. When you're more bothered about getting emails sent out than having breakfast with your own son and family and friends and partner, there's something wrong there. And that's mainly the reason why I had to slow everything down. And I'm laid in this hospital bed, and as I'm laid there, my dad had dropped dead. He had a stress-induced heart attack, and I had to check myself out of hospital, and I were a pallbearer at my dad's funeral. And whilst I'm carrying the coffin, the pain in my side were excruciating. I had one goal: to get in that church. So from hospital to getting changed into a suit to going to the funeral, I come out of the church and I turn my phone on. And at least 5 people said, we don't care if you've been in hospital. We don't care if your dad's just died. We expected these products on time and they hadn't turned up. Think about that for a second. I'd become a slave to the people that were buying my products based on the fact that I wanted to escape working with or for anybody else. I'd become more of a slave. So I apologized profusely, and I said to myself at that moment, this is going to stop. And I kept letting myself down. I kept going back to work, and I kept working even harder, and I weren't sleeping. And because I were dealing with clients from all around the world, I'd get a couple of hours sleep and then get up, and I were running on no juice. I had no energy. And then I were on the set of the BBC, and I collapsed. And it wasn't kidney induced this time, it was heart induced. I collapsed. And the producer that I were working with said, go home, do not come back until your health's better. And when you're in a situation where your dad's just collapsed and died because he were going through a stress-induced time that he never told anybody about, and then it starts to happen to you, there's a wake-up call there. 30 years old, and you're collapsing due to stress. There's something not right about all that. So what I did is I laid in bed, and the texts were going off, and I got up, I threw my phone in the car and I drove, and I kept driving until I discovered a place called the Cairngorms in Scotland. And I've visited as like a little honour thing every single year since that point. I've probably gone there for the last couple of years running. I've been there 4 times over the last couple of years. And then I started to slow things down. I started really slowing everything down. And then Ellusionist and I come to an agreement. And I want to give you an insight into what it's like working for Ellusionist. So we record every team call that we have so that we can reference stuff back later on, dates, times, etc, etc. I'm going to play you an excerpt out of a team call that happened just recently. And I want to show you the 2 things that come of that call. So the first one is something that Brad said, and the second one is something that Jen said. And I want to play it to you. So I'm going to play this call and I'll explain what went on.
Good. And Pete, what are you working on lately?
So I want to take a bit of time to go back to revisit some of the classics. Like I want to purchase a load of old books, and I think I'm going to take a bit of time out just to read those and see if it inspires me. Reinvigorate my passion for this stuff, really, to be honest.
I get a lot going through old books and stuff. I love it. There's gems there that you can pick up, I've done it a lot with my videos and stuff. But yeah, just go and do whatever you need to do, Pete, to be creative. I know, you're on team calls while you're underneath your car working on it and stuff like that. But if you need to go somewhere, book a cabin, get off into the woods or whatever, bring a notepad and just be with yourself to get creative. Yeah, do it.
And I also need to chat with Jen. I can do that now if everybody else don't mind. It's just a quick one, really. So
yeah, sure. What's up? Jen? Yeah.
So in regards to the gimmick that we were talking about, gimmick, I've got some drawings that I want to make, and if I send them over to you, could you just get me a prototype made up? Could you get one sent over to me?
Oh yeah, absolutely. As long as you have the drawing, we can get that done pretty quick.
And also, did you get the was sending a gimmick over to you? Did it come yet, or are we still waiting on that?
No, it did. It came yesterday. So what do you want me to do with that? Do you want me to open that up, or do you want me to forward that to you? What are we doing with that?
If you open it, it's easier from your end if you get a load of photographs, and then we'll discuss posting it over to me after you've got an idea of what it looks like and everything else, just to see how similar it is to what it is that we're working on already.
Okay, sounds good. I'll get that opened up, and then I'll give you a call later on. How's that sound?
Spot on. So yeah, so
Perfect.
That's me then. I'm going to take a bit of time just going over the classics, and I'll get back in contact when I'm feeling a bit more reinvigorated, because at the minute.
So now we're back from listening to the call, and I've moved location because I'm filming something else. And as you can hear, Brad is so relaxed and so easygoing. He doesn't tell me to do anything. He says, what are you working on? And then I say, this is what I want to do and this is what I'm doing. And then Brad says, you go, do whatever you need to do to be creative. Most of the time on team calls, I'm underneath cars, fixing them, messing around, building them. And they never say anything to me. I said I want some time out to read the classics, to reinvigorate my passion, and that's the truth. I and I looked at the classics. But not only did I look at the classics, I took myself off into the middle of nowhere because I decided to, and Brad even said it's a good idea, go. And the second thing I wanted to point out is my ability to have anything built and created that I can draw or write about. That's one of the big reasons I'm with Ellusionist. I can literally draw something on a piece of paper that I imagine inside my head, send it to Jen, and about 4 weeks later it comes through the door as a physical item. Imagine having that ability as a child. Imagine as a child drawing your own toys and then they come through the door 4 weeks later. Who wouldn't want to do that? I'm not selling out, I'm buying in, and I bought into one of the greatest teams on the entire planet. And that's not just me saying it. You heard Brad say, go book a cabin, go away, do what you need to do. And I am going to take Brad's offer and do that later down the line. I've not done it yet because I decided where I wanted to go. I'm about to cut to a vlog of me taking a trip to the Cairngorms. Now, I did say earlier that I've been to the Cairngorms on 4 occasions over the last 2 years, and 3 of those occasions I went to go spot dolphins. I rented boats and I went out on the open sea to try and find them, to no avail. I sat at Chanry Point from dusk till dawn on several occasions and never saw them. I went with one goal in mind. It was just something on my bucket list that I needed to see. I needed to get up close and personal to. I don't know why, it's just something that once I'd been once and it had not happened, and then I went the next morning and it didn't happen, and then I caught a boat and I paid, I paid for every single ticket on the boat so that me, Reese and Casper could go on the boat on our own just so we could get a good shot of these dolphins, and nothing happened, right? And I'm not going to tell you if I saw them this time. I'm just going to play the vlog of my trip to Scotland and how I camped. I decided where I wanted to camp because there's no hotels, there's no Airbnbs. You're literally in the middle of nowhere and there's nobody around for miles. And that's just the way that I liked it. So I jumped in my truck. I packed the truck full of stuff. I travelled to the Cairngorms, and this is the vlog. Whilst on the team call this afternoon, I expressed that I needed a little bit of time away, and Brad's advised me to go get a log cabin, but I've decided that I don't want to do that. What I actually want to do is I want to travel to the Cairngorms National Park in Scotland, and if you've been following my story, you'll know that I've been there at least 4 times over the last 2 years, and I always go from the Cairngorms in Scotland right down to Chanry Point, where I sit and I try to find dolphins. And it sounds like a ridiculous thing saying it out loud. I sat there for hours and hours and hours, I've rented boats and everything else, and I've not seen them yet, and I feel in my bones that this time is going to be the time. So as you can see, it's starting to get dark. I've still got to pack my truck. Let's get on the road. So I've finally arrived at my destination. I'm going to get some sleep and I'll update you in the morning. So I'm off the beaten track in the middle of the Cairngorms, and I've looked on the internet and people are suggesting the best place to see deer is at the Cairngorms Reindeer Centre. And what makes this place so special is apparently there was one family that bred a series of reindeers, let them out into the outbacks of Scotland, and they know how to call them, so they come running over from the wild and you get to go up close and personal with them. So I'm definitely going to try to get in contact with them, and I'm going to see if I can make a private reservation so it's just me, the tour guide and the reindeer. So let's make that call.
Good afternoon, Cairngorm Ranger Centre.
Could you give me some more information on the reindeer talks? I'm really interested in booking one.
Yeah, so we're taking advanced bookings at the moment for all our visits, and that involves a guided walk up onto the mountain to meet the herd that we've got on the hillside. Now, it's a free-ranging roaming herd, so for instance today we've got about 80 reindeer out on the hillside that we're going to go and see. So it's half of the mountain out in front of us where we've got them involved, but some of them are out on the tops of the mountain. Generally the tour lasts about an hour and a half to 2 hours. Reindeer are going to gather up all around us.
That sounds perfect. And if I wanted to, I don't know if you do private bookings.
Our minimum booking fee for a private party is £180.
because I want to come and I want to take some photographs. So if I paid the £180, would I be able to book a tour on my own? Is that a possibility?
If you're doing we can have a different charge for photography. So it might be slightly different if you're doing a photography session. But if you want a private tour, a private visit and a certain time, that would probably be a completely different price.
That's fine, that's absolutely fine. So if I give you my telephone number,
and get someone to phone you back.
It's 075
Yep, 075
6101.
6101. Photography session is what you're after. Private photography. Right, and I'll try and give you a ring back quite soon.
That's perfect, thank you for that.
Okay.
Take care,
Right.
talk to you soon.
Okay, thank
Bye
you
bye
very
bye.
much.
Bye bye bye.
Right, bye-bye.
I've just got off the phone with the reindeer people and they've told me there's a definite chance of getting a one-on-one up close and personal with reindeers, and I could take my camera. So no matter what it costs, I'm going, because it's something I've always wanted to do. It's always been on my bucket list, and no matter what it takes, I'm definitely going to do it before I go. For now, I'm going to jump in my truck. We're going to drive over to Chanry Point, which is about an hour and a half, 2 hours away from here, to a lighthouse where you can dolphin watch, and the dolphin watching game is a patience game. I brought a little chair in the car, so let's get on the road. So I finally left Chanry Point. I've pulled my truck over into a lay-by on a country lane. I'm going to sleep here for the night. And to be honest, I'm feeling a bit deflated. I'm feeling deflated at the fact that I sat there for over 4 hours and I didn't see a dolphin. And I know that doesn't sound like a lot of time, but I've been here over 5 times now and I've still not seen anything. So I'm starting to think it's some joke that the Scots play on the English tourists, where they say, oh yeah, go to Chanry Point and you'll definitely see dolphin. And then when the Scots come onto the beach with their cameras, they're probably taking pictures of the English tourists. It wouldn't surprise me if there weren't some Facebook groups set up somewhere where it's idiot tourists try to spot dolphins. I don't think I really saw anything, a few birds, and then at one point this lonely seal drifted by. But it's not going to stop me. Tomorrow morning I'm getting up as soon as the sun comes up. I'm going to get back in that chair and I'm going to sit there and I'm not leaving until I see a dolphin. So tomorrow is the day. So I'll check in with you then. So if I'm looking a little bit flustered, the reason why is I just got a call from the woman at the reindeer centre. She says that I can have a private slot this afternoon. So she took a payment over the phone, and halfway through taking the details, the phone started to bleep. So I've ran all the way back to the truck to plug it in. And I've flattened the battery. I must have left a light on or something, I don't know. Mustn't have closed the door properly, I don't know. But now I've got to get the emergency services here in the next 40 to 45 minutes to have a chance at getting back to the Cairngorms in the time that I booked the booking for. So I don't know if it's going to happen, we'll see. So I'm literally racing uphill through the mountains to get back to the reindeer centre. I have a feeling that I'm going to make it, so that's great. So excited to go and do it. But yeah, so I'm going to get over to the reindeer centre. So that's it, that's the end of the vlog. I'm finally back home. I'm about to relax. In fact, there's one last thing that you need to see. It's a difficult question, but I'd probably just remind you that this is your life. This is your story. And you get to decide who the characters are in this story. You get to decide the way the story ends. And nobody else controls that. You can achieve whatever you want from life by following 2 simple rules. The first, find happiness. Second, know what you truly want. Finding happiness for me was really easy because I just stopped caring what everybody else thought. I stopped trying to be what everybody else wanted me to be. Once you've found what you want from life, you have to smash down barriers that are in your way, and you have to make it happen. This is your story, so be the story. So now we're back from the vlog. It was such a cool experience to see those dolphins. Like I said, for years I've been waiting to see them, and to get that close to them, I were literally as close as the camera is to me right now. It were unbelievable, and it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. And now I know how to find the dolphins. I know what time to go out. I sat for hours and hours and hours and waited and waited and waited and waited, and nothing came. And then this time I waited again, but they came, and it was the most incredible thing ever. And I'm so excited to be able to share that video with you. I do feel reinvigorated. I do feel passionate about mentalism again. And because I'm feeling so passionate and because I'm feeling so generous, I want to end this video on a tutorial of the seemingly psychological card effect. So here's the explanation. So I want to talk to you about the seemingly psychological card force. And it's a really interesting effect, and it's something I came up with a number of years ago, and I originally called it the throwaway card effect. And the reason I call it a throwaway card effect is because it's just such a simple effect that you can either take it or leave it, but it's powerful in the right setting. So just to quickly remind you what it looks like, I take the 5 of clubs and I place it face down on the table. I place the deck off to the side so that I can't do anything with it. I explain that the 5 of clubs is built up of 2 key components, the suit and the value. So obviously if you were to look at that, you know it's the 5 and the club. I don't want you to go for that in a second, right? But if you were to look down and just imagine that club pops and changes to a different suit, what suit does it change to?
Hearts.
Fair choice, right? And you to look at the value there, the number, and imagine the number changed to a different number. What number does it change to?
8.
The 8 of hearts. Fair choice, right? Now, look how fair that seems. So I pick these up, and I explained that earlier on I turned 1 card round. I go through all of these. They genuinely are all face down, except 1 card, which is the 8 of hearts, and I knew you'd go for that, right? And you've not seen this before. You've not seen a performance with Fraser Parker. There it is. So let me explain how this works, because that's probably fooled you seeing it twice. Obviously that were a really rushed and quick performance, but this effect doesn't always play out the same way. So do you know what a multiple out is, Zach?
No idea.
So a multiple out is basically an effect that can end a load of different ways. So I don't know if you've ever seen the Bear Grylls interactive thing on Netflix where you press the buttons and you can choose the ending. Well, that's the exact same as this. It's called a multiple out, right? And the way that the effect runs all the way through is dependent on the choices that the spectator makes. Let me give you an example. Let's say that the spectator chooses the 2 of hearts. Well, then the 2 would come out of a wallet or out of my pocket. I haven't prepared for that because I don't need it, and I'll explain why in a moment. The 3 of hearts I've placed on the top of the deck. So if you'd have said to me, instead of the 8, you'd have said to me, I imagine it changes to a heart, and I say, what about the number? And you say 3, and you say, that deck's been sat there the entire time. Just reach down and take the top card off. I won't touch them. So reach down, and when they take the top card off now, it's going to be that 3 of hearts. If they say the 4 of hearts, again, real simple. I grab hold of the cards, I place them down, I move these off to the side, and I say, take the box. Inside the box, there's 1 card. Now, obviously, inside the box, it's going to be the 4 of hearts, right? The 5, they don't go for, and here's the reason why. Because I place the 5 of clubs down on the table, I'm using a principle called limiting via inclusion. And what that means is that I'm limiting that choice or getting rid of that choice because I include it in the experiment. I say to you, you know, obviously don't go for this. Well, in your head you think don't go for a 5 or don't go for a club. But it also implies not to go for a black card, which is great because it pushes them into the reds. And the most favourable of the reds are the hearts as opposed to the diamonds. Now I'll explain what happens if you were going to go for diamond. I'll explain how to force it so that you end up with, completely end up with a heart every time, but they're not going to go for 5. The number 6 is on the face of the deck, right? The number 7 is a psychologically chosen card, so I don't mention it because I know that most people know that, right? But if you wanted to mention it in performance, I say, now look down at this, and obviously it's made up of 2 key components, a value and a suit. Now I don't want you, in a moment I'm going to have you change, I don't want you to go for your favourite number, the number 7, right? And if it is the number 7 that's their favourite number, they'll go, how did you know that was my favourite number? And if not, you go, and they go, 7's not my favourite number. You go, no, I'm saying don't go for your favourite number. Everybody goes for 7, so don't go for that. So you kill 7. You can also do an effect earlier that involves the number 7, so you don't come up with that. The number 8 is obviously the only card that you put in the deck face up, and I like that ending, and I like the ending inside the box. There's another ending that I really like. It's the number 9. I go like this, I sit back and I say, look, right there on the table, have you seen those jokers, right? And make sure that when you're performing, your box is facing you as well. That's a good point, so they can't see the 4 hearts inside there. I place it face down anyway, but what I do is, during performance, if they pick the 9, I hold my hands up and I say, do you remember beforehand the cards have been sat there? Look, in between the 2 jokers, I placed a prediction. And then that's the 9. And the number 10, again, is another one that I personally don't use. But if you've got a bicycle deck, on the back of the bike box, there is the 10 of hearts. So when you're looking at that, what you can do is when you pick your deck up to take your 5 of clubs out, so we'll neaten this back up, but let's say you were taking your 5 of clubs out and you placed it down on the table. As you put this down, leave the 10 of clubs hanging out and say, look, I obviously don't want you to go for this, but look at me. Now draw their attention to you, and then later on when you get back into this, what happens is they then have seen the 10 of hearts, they don't realise they've seen it, and you go, did you believe you were influenced? And I'll say, do you remember when I patted the table here before and said, take a look at this? Look back down to the corner there, at the corner of the deck, and they'd see the 10 of hearts there. And so that'd be like, wow, he planted that in my head somehow. And so that's a way to get around that. But I don't have the 10 prepared. So let's say I'd have gone for 10 in this example. Let's say you'd have gone for 10 of hearts. So I'd have said this pops and changes to a heart. Let's say the number changes. What number does it change to?
10.
Now, I told you that I'm going to be putting a number into your head. And it feels like a fair choice, doesn't it? But if you really, really knew that I were putting that inside your head, would it still feel as fair?
Not really, no.
No? Okay, well what number would seem fair? It would seem like there's no way I could have put it in your head.
4 of hearts.
And you see how I got him to change his mind quite easy, and that'll let people change their mind. It'll have an effect on the way they think. But what you do is this, is if they go 4 and I go, now that's fair, that's your choice, you didn't have to change your mind. Let's say, for example, the person says, no, I want to stick with my 10, right? Then you're stuck. So you can set this up. You could say, in a moment, I'm going to have you change your mind a few times, right? So let's say you said 10 now. So it pops, it changes to a
8.
Right, okay, an 8's a good one, say 10, right? So just for the example of the camera.
Right.
So it pops and changes to a
10.
And now I said I'm going to get you to change your mind a couple of times, so change your mind to a different number, don't say it, and change your mind
3.
again.
And
6, and then pull it up, that's it, right? So you say don't say it, boom, boom, it changes, and that's it, nice and easy. So now we'll get down to the suit. Well, I'm very bold in the sense that I just jump straight out and hope they're going to go for the heart. Remember, this is a piece of influence. If they go for a diamond, it's still close enough. It's perfect enough to be just, you know, because it seems so impossible. You don't even need to go for the suit. You could say, you know, change your mind on the value. What's the value? So they change their mind, and you say, now change the suit. What suit? And you say, okay, so a red 8. Spread them a red 8, whatever, a red 4, red 6, whatever the value is. But you can use a quiver So a quiver looks exactly like this, and it's super easy to perform. So let's say that I'm holding the reds and the blacks. Just take one from me.
blacks.
So that means you've taken the blacks, which leaves us with the reds. And again, you could have taken away the reds, you just didn't, right? Now let's say that he decided to take the reds. I'm not saying take away, I'm saying take one from me. So let's say I've got reds and blacks, you take one from me.
Red.
and that's a fair choice. Now obviously you've got hearts and diamonds, right? So what I want you to do is just put the hearts and diamonds face down on the table like this for me, and just you know which one's, is this heart or is this, which one's which?
That's heart, that's diamond.
Okay, so push one toward me. The heart, that's a fair choice, right? Or you could say, let's say grab the reds, you could do it in his hands. So let's say you're taking the reds, so you have hearts and diamonds. Which one's hearts, which is diamonds?
This is hearts, this one's diamonds.
So hearts, diamonds. And I clarify in my head and I say, and get ready for this, I look this way and I say, just as if I'm going to talk to somebody else, hand one to me. So this one, that's a fair choice. It was the
Hearts.
right? Look what I did there, clever little moment. So just imagine you're holding hearts and diamonds again. Watch, I'm looking away and I'm looking at my peripheral and I start to talk and I start to turn this way and I go, oh, hand one to me. So let's say this one, we'll get rid of that. Which one did you get rid of?
Diamonds.
So I'm watching in my peripheral which one he hands me as if I'm not watching. So again, casually watch how quick this is. So you decide randomly. So you've got your hands like this. So you've got hearts and diamonds, right? And I go, so I turn and say, in fact, just give one to me. That's a fair choice. Which one did you give me?
Hearts.
Now again, run that again. So you're holding him up. So he's got hearts and diamonds and I'm looking away and I go, just give one to me. So we'll get rid of that one. Which one did you get rid of?
Diamonds.
So you've still got hold of the heart there. So this would be the of hearts, right? So now that's how you use equivocate. It's real easy. There's a few different versions of equivocate. I think that's the best one, you know, the easiest one for you to learn. So do you have any questions? Because if you have any questions, they'll likely have questions, or did you get all of that?
Alright, so I'm assuming, because when you said change the value of the card, it obviously means don't go for a picture card. What if they did go for a picture card on the hearts?
Good question. Well, I subtly slip in a real simple thing that you missed, and everybody else misses the same things. And I say, look, there's the suit and the value. And I say, now look down at that value, that number. And imagine the number changed to another number, a different value. What value does it change to?
I would say like 7 or something.
Right, and because I've said, look down at that number, and imagine that the number changes to another number, a different value. What value does it change to? And then boom, you're roping them back in, right? If they do pick a picture card, you say, okay, that's a picture card, but there's only 1 in 3 choice there. I want you to have a whole range. Give me a number.
6.
And then boom, you're back into it. So good question. So that's it. I hope you understood that. It's a real easy thing, real easy to understand, real easy solution to a problem that you were worried about. And I hope that you got a lot from that. So. I'm finally back home. The trip to the Cairngorms were incredible. I saw the dolphins. I've totally ticked that off my bucket list. And I want to end on an amazing announcement. Ellusionist are hiring. So if you want to buy in just like I did, all you've got to do is email your CV to support@ellusionist.com. That's it, and we'll go through those emails, we'll see what you're made of, and we'll pick one of you to join our amazing team. So until next time, guys, cheers.